What if his silence isn't strength? It's his deepest flaw unraveling. Imagine a man ignoring you, thinking he holds all the power, only to discover his indifference is a mask for insecurities Carl Jung himself would expose. You're about to unlock a game-changing secret that turns his weakness into your greatest advantage. Stay with me. This isn't just about his cold shoulder, it's about the hidden chaos within his psyche. A chaos Carl Jung called the shadow. Those unacknowledged fears and doubts he's desperate to hide. Have you ever felt dismissed, wondering, what's wrong with you? Only to realize it's his struggle, not yours. In this video, we'll dive into the mind of a man who ignores you, using Carl Jung's timeless wisdom to reveal why his silence screams louder than words. You'll learn how his greatest weakness, his inability to face his own emotions, can empower you to reclaim your worth. From the certainty he takes for granted to the panic when that crumbles, we'll explore 5 shocking vulnerabilities that shift the power dynamic. Get ready for real-life stories, practical insights, and a mindset shift that'll leave you unshakable. This isn't about chasing him, it's about mastering yourself. So, if you're tired of being overlooked, hit that like button, and let's embark on this transformative journey together. What's the one sign of his ignoring that's hit you hardest? Share below. Your story could inspire others. When a man ignores you, it's easy to spiral into self-doubt, questioning your worth, or replaying every interaction to pinpoint your mistake. But what if the real story isn't about you at all? According to Carl Jung, the silence he offers isn't a fortress of strength. It's a fragile mask concealing his deepest struggles. Welcome to the world of the shadow, a concept Carl Jung introduced as the hidden, unacknowledged parts of our psyche that we bury out of fear or shame. For a man who ignores you, this shadow might hold insecurities, a fear of vulnerability, or even a buried sense of inferiority he can't confront. His indifference isn't a power play, it's a defense mechanism. And understanding this flips the narrative entirely. Imagine Sarah, a 32-year-old graphic designer who noticed her partner, Mark, growing distant. At first, she blamed herself, thinking her busy schedule pushed him away. But as weeks passed with his one-word replies and avoided eye contact, she sensed something deeper. One night, during a rare conversation, Mark admitted he felt overwhelmed by his own failures at work and feared opening up would make him look weak. His ignoring wasn't about Sarah, it was his shadow projecting a need to protect his fragile ego. Carl Jung would argue, this is common what we reject in ourselves. We push onto others, often unconsciously. This shadow isn't evil, it's a mirror. A man who ignores you might be dodging the emotional intensity you bring into his life. Perhaps he senses your strength or depth, threatens the image he's built for himself. Carl Jung believed that until we face our shadow, it controls us. And for this man, his silence is proof. He's a prisoner, not a king. The greatest weakness here isn't his act of ignoring, it's his refusal to integrate those hidden truths. When he shuts you out, he's not rejecting you, he's running from himself. So, what does this mean for you? It's a call to shift your perspective. Instead of chasing his attention, see his silence as a confession of his inner turmoil. Take Lisa's story. After her boyfriend ignored her for days, she stopped reaching out, focusing instead on her own growth. Weeks later, he returned, apologetis. Admitting her absence forced him to face his avoidance. Her strength didn't beg, it revealed. Carl Jung's wisdom here is clear. The power lies in recognizing that his weakness is his inability to deal with what he feels for you. This isn't about fixing him, it's about empowering yourself. When you stop taking his silence personally, you begin to see it as a gift, a signal to rise above, and let his shadow do the heavy lifting of self-discovery. This chapter sets the stage for a transformative journey. His ignoring isn't a dead end. It's an invitation to explore your own resilience. Carl Jung taught that every conflict is a chance for growth. And here, the growth is yours. As you navigate this, ask yourself, what can his silence teach me about my own strength? The answer might just set you free. Have you ever noticed how a man who ignores you seems so confident? As if his silence is a throne he rules from. That confidence often rests on a shaky foundation, the certainty that you'll always be there, waiting, ready to pick up where he left off. But what happens when that certainty begins to crack? Carl Jung's insights into the human psyche reveal that this shift is where his greatest weakness emerges, turning his control into chaos. This chapter dives into how your absence can dismantle his illusion of power and empower you to redefine the dynamic. Consider Jenna, a 28-year-old teacher who spent months chasing the attention of her on-again, off-again boyfriend. Ryan, his habit of ignoring her texts for days left her anxious, placed in sedentary. Always the first to reach out. One day, exhausted, she decided to stop. No more messages. No more checking his social media. At first, silence reigned, but then, a week later, Ryan's name popped up with a hesitant, "Hey, you okay?" Her withdrawal shook him. Carl Jung would explain this as the psyche's reaction to imbalance when the constant presence he took for granted vanished. His mind scrambled to restore equilibrium. That's the power of fading certainty. Carl Jung taught that human beings fear what they cannot predict. A man who ignores you thrives on the predictability of your response. Your availability feeds his ego, reinforcing his belief that he holds the reins. But when you step back, that predictability collapses. Take Mark's story after his girlfriend stopped replying. He found himself scrolling through her old posts, leaving a subtle like, then a comment. Her absence wasn't just physical, it was emotional. And it gnawed at him. The discomfort he felt wasn't about losing her, it was about losing the control he'd assumed. Carl Jung's principle of opposites kicks in here where there was once comfort in ignoring. Now there's a void that intensifies his unease. This shift doesn't require games or manipulation. It's about authentic self-respect. When you stop reacting, no more chasing, no more offering unwavering attention, you cease to be a passive player in his narrative. Emily, a 25-year-old entrepreneur, experienced this firsthand. After her partner's months of distance, she focused on her business and friendships. His sudden calls and apologies followed, revealing how her absence disrupted his sense of security. Carl Jung's wisdom shines here. The unconscious mind seeks balance, and your withdrawal forces him to confront the space you once filled. The greatest weakness of a man who ignores you lies in his assumption that nothing changes. He believes he can return any time, finding you as attentive as before. But when you prove otherwise through your growth, your independence, that belief shatters. Ryan's return to Jenna wasn't about love. It was about reclaiming the stability her presence once offered. Your power emerges when you let that certainty fade naturally, not out of spite, but out of self-love. This isn't about punishing him. It's about teaching him and yourself that your attention is a gift, not a guarantee. So, how do you wield this power? Start by redirecting your energy. Instead of waiting for his next move, invest in what lifts you: hobbies, friends, personal goals. Watch how his behavior shifts as the silence you once feared becomes your strength. Carl Jung's insight is clear. The moment he realizes you're no longer predictable, his control crumbles, and his weakness becomes your opportunity. This isn't a battle to win. It's a journey to reclaim your worth. As you navigate this, ask yourself, what does his silence teach me about my own resilience? The answer might just set the tone for every relationship to come. Have you ever felt like a man who ignores you, acts as if he's the only star in your universe? That sense of exclusivity where he believes he's irreplaceable can be a powerful illusion. But it's also his Achilles heel. Carl Jung's teachings on the psyche suggest that this arrogance stems from a fragile ego, one that crumbles when the spotlight shifts. In this chapter, we'll explore how breaking that throne of exclusivity with your own growth can transform his certainty into uncertainty, giving you the upper hand in ways he never saw coming. Meet Claire, a 30-year-old writer who once poured all her energy into her boyfriend. Tom, who often ignored her whims. She cancelled plans with friends, skipped her writing sessions, all to be available for his sporadic attention. One day, tired of the imbalance, she reconnected with her old college friends and dove back into her passion for poetry. Tom noticed the change. Her laughter on group calls, her posts about new poems, and his casual dismissals began to falter. Carl Jung would argue this shift disrupts the ego's need for control. When you expand your world beyond him, you challenge the exclusivity he took for granted. And that's where his weakness lies. Carl Jung believed that what we invest our energy in grows stronger. When you focus solely on a man who ignores you, you feed his illusion of being your sole priority. But when you redirect that energy rebuilding friendships, pursuing hobbies, or exploring new interests, his throne wobbles. Take Rachel's story after her partner's months of distance. She joined a hiking group and found joy in nature. His sudden interest in her weekend plans revealed his unease. The exclusivity he assumed was eroding. And Carl Jung's principle of balance suggests this discomfort pushes him to reassess his stance. To break this cycle, strengthen your own connections. Re-engage with friends, family, or communities that uplift you. This isn't about replacing him, it's about enriching your life. When Tom saw Claire thriving without him, he felt a pang of doubt. Had he misjudged her value? Carl Jung warned that humans fear losing control over what they possess. And your independence threatens that grip. Your presence becomes magnetic, not because you chase, but because you're no longer orbiting his ego. This power shift is subtle yet profound. By living fully, you strip away his assumed centrality. Claire's poetry readings drew admiration, and Tom's attempts to reconnect showed his uncertainty. Your growth doesn't demand his approval, it redefines the game. Ask yourself, what new world can I build that makes his silence irrelevant? The answer lies in your resilience, turning his weakness into your triumph. Have you ever noticed how a man who ignores you seems to bask in the glow of your unwavering attention, as if it's his birthright? That glow isn't just flattery, it's the fuel for his ego, a validation he leans on without realizing its fragility. Carl Jung's insights into the human psyche reveal that this dependence on external admiration is a hidden weakness, one that unravels when you stop holding up the mirror. In this chapter, we'll uncover how withdrawing that validation can shake his self-esteem to its core, empowering you to reclaim your narrative with grace and strength. Picture Alex, a 34-year-old nurse whose boyfriend, Daniel, often ignored her calls after long shifts, yet expected her praise. When he finally responded, she'd shower him with compliments, eager to lift his spirits. Unaware she was reinforcing his sense of superiority. One evening, drained from giving without receiving, Alex decided to shift focus, praising herself for her hard work instead. Days later, Daniel's tone softened, asking why she seemed distant. Carl Jung would call this a rupture in the psyche's balance. When the mirror of validation dims, the ego stumbles. His self-esteem, once propped up by her admiration, began to waver. Carl Jung taught that our identity is shaped by the reflections we receive from others. For a man who ignores you, Your attention acts as a booster, feeding his confidence and reinforcing his control. But when you withdraw that boost, stopping the compliments, the eager responses, the constant availability his psyche feels, the void. Take Mia's experience. After months of being ignored by her partner, she stopped gushing over his achievements and turned her energy toward her art. His sudden interest in her paintings, paired with a nervous, "You've been quiet lately," showed how her silence undermined his ego. Carl Jung's concept of projection suggests he was reflecting his need for approval onto her, and her withdrawal exposed that need. This isn't about playing games, it's about authentic redirection. You don't need to fake disinterest. Simply stop treating him as the center of your validation. Consider Laura, a 29-year-old marketer whose boyfriend thrived on her admiration despite his distance. When she began celebrating her own successes, new clients, gym milestones, he started seeking her approval, leaving comments on her posts. Carl Jung's principle of reciprocity applies here. Relationships are mirrors, and if you always reflect admiration without receiving it back, he'll never value it. By nurturing your own worth, you break the cycle of one-sided validation. The impact is profound. A man's self-esteem often hinges on the effortless admiration he receives. When that dries up, he faces a crisis he can't articulate. Daniel's softened tone with Alex wasn't love. It was a scramble to regain the ego boost he'd lost. Carl Jung noted that the unconscious acts symbolically. Her shift signaled a loss of something valuable, even if he couldn't name it. This vulnerability becomes your strength when you redirect that energy inward. Celebrate your victories. Invest in your passions, and watch how his behavior adjusts as the mirror turns away. So, how do you apply this? Start by affirming yourself daily. Acknowledge your efforts, your growth, your beauty. When you stop magnifying his presence, you strip away the easy validation he relied on. Mia's art didn't just distract her, it redefined her value, forcing her partner to reconsider his stance. Carl Jung's wisdom is clear. The moment he senses you no longer need to prop him up, his confidence falters, and his weakness becomes your opportunity. This isn't revenge, it's liberation. As you navigate this, ask, what does my self-love reveal about his need for me? The answer could reshape your power dynamic forever. Have you ever felt trapped in a cycle where a man's indifference defines your value, leaving you scrambling to prove your worth? It's time to break free. Carl Jung's profound insights into the psyche show that the real power lies not in chasing his attention, but in reclaiming your own narrative. This chapter explores how a simple shift in your mindset and actions can turn his weakness into your strength, transforming you into the architect of your own destiny. Get ready to step into a power that's been yours all along. Meet Sophie, a 31-year-old therapist who spent years bending over backwards for her partner, James, who often ignored her needs. She'd apologize for his silence, hoping to win him back, until one day, she hit a breaking point. Inspired by a friend's advice, she began prioritizing herself, scheduling therapy sessions for her clients with confidence, journaling her thoughts, and saying no when it felt right. Within weeks, James returned with a rare vulnerability. Asking what had changed, Carl Jung would call this a power shift. When you stop accepting less than you deserve, you force others to confront your worth. Her refusal to settle wasn't a rejection of him, it was a reclamation of herself. Carl Jung taught that how others treat us mirrors what we accept within. If you tolerate being ignored, you signal to your subconscious and to him that your value is negotiable. But when you draw a line, asserting your worth through actions, the dynamic flips. Take Aisha's journey after months of her boyfriend's distance. She invested in a cooking class, rediscovering her joy. His sudden interest in her new recipes paired with a hesitant invite to dinner, showed her worth, had shifted the balance. Carl Jung's concept of individuation applies here. Becoming your true self means shedding roles that diminish you, and your growth becomes a beacon he can't ignore. This power shift doesn't demand confrontation. It's about quiet confidence. You don't need to argue or plead, simply live as if his approval isn't your lifeline. Consider Tara, a 27-year-old artist whose partner often dismissed her work. When she started showcasing her paintings at local galleries, his casual, "That's nice," turned into a curious, "Can I see more?" Her focus on her passion, not his validation, rekindled his interest. Carl Jung's wisdom highlights that the unconscious responds to authenticity when you stop playing the role of the pursuer. He's forced to reassess your value. The transformation is yours to claim. A man's weakness lies in his assumption that you'll always wait, but your strength emerges when you prove otherwise. Sophie's newfound boundaries didn't just change James, they changed her. She no longer saw herself through his lens, and that shift radiated. Carl Jung noted that true power comes from inner authority, not external validation. By saying no to less, you teach him and yourself that your worth is non-negotiable. So, how do you make this shift? Start small. Set a boundary, perhaps declining a last-minute invite that disregards your plans. Celebrate your wins, even the quiet ones, like finishing a book or a workout. Surround yourself with people who reflect your value. Aisha's cooking class wasn't just a hobby, it was a statement of self-love that rippled outward. As you invest in yourself, his indifference loses its grip. Carl Jung's insight is clear: when you align with your authentic self, the world, including him, adjusts to your energy. This isn't about manipulating him, it's about liberating you. Tara's gallery success wasn't a ploy, it was her truth. And it shifted the power without a word. Ask yourself, what boundary can I set today to honor my worth? The answer might spark a revolution in how you're treated. Reclaim your power, and watch how his weakness becomes your triumph. You've just unlocked the secret to shattering his silence and reclaiming your throne of power with Carl Jung's wisdom as your guide. You're not just surviving his indifference, you're rising as the unstoppable force of your own destiny. This journey isn't about bending to his weakness, it's about bending the world to your strength. Feel that fire ignite within you every boundary you've set. Every moment you've chosen yourself has forged a new you, radiant and unshakable now. It's time to seal this transformation. Smash that like button. If this video has lit a spark in your soul, your click fuels more life-changing insights like this. Share this with a friend who needs to break free from the shadows of neglect. And let's build a community of empowerment together. Subscribe to Jung's Psyche Hub and hit the bell. Your next step on this sacred path awaits. Drop your story in the comments. Which power shift hit you hardest? Did you say no for the first time? Or reclaim a passion? Let's celebrate your victory, because you're not alone. And your worth is non-negotiable. Step into your power today and watch his weakness transform into your triumph forever.